If you think running a radio station is as easy as just tossing 1,200 songs into a playlist, smashing shuffle, then yes, congratulations! You have just created the world's most boring iPod. Oh, hang on a second. Yeah, hello? Okay, I'll tell them. 2006 called and they actually want their iPod back.
We are on the air.
Nobody's tuning in for that. And if they do, most likely, they ain't coming back. Now, when listeners do come back, hungry for more of your sweet radio goodness, well, what's hooked them a lot of times is something they are totally clueless to. And it just so happens to be one of your station's greatest assets. Your music format clock. Yeah, I know, format clock, it sounds a lot like something Grandpa used to do to program his VCR to record Donahue reruns. But trust me, music rotations and format clocks are the secret sauce to keeping listeners, well, listening. Hey there, I'm Jeff, the radio DJ dude, and by the end of all this nonsense, you're gonna know how to make your station sound tighter, fresher, and way more pro than basement broadcasting Bobby who just hits shuffle on Spotify while Granny warms up his Pop-Tarts. Oh my God, none of that. And because I'm all about dishing it hot and real, just like Granny's Pop-Tarts, I'm going to reveal the biggest secret in radio. The thing that separates the stations from the ones that listeners can't turn off. Now, while I've done a Radio DJ 101 video on rotation basics before, it's actually right up here, it covered the how specific to creating rotations using the software RadioDJ. Now today, I'm getting messy with the what and why behind clocks and rotations, regardless of what software that you use. These are just battle-tested tips and tricks across the board. Okay, first things first, let's break down these two terms. Music rotations. This is how often songs play and how they rotate through the day and the week. They're rules to determine artists and flow. Now, good rotations actually keep your sound fresh. Bad rotations make your listeners feel like they're trapped in an elevator with the same 8 John Tesh songs on a loop. You don't want that. Now, Top 40 is more guilty of the "didn't I just hear this artist 30 minutes ago" problem, but good rotations are the cure to all that. Now, format clocks, this is basically a visual pie chart of your entire broadcasting hour. It shows when songs play, when commercials hit, when the DJ talks, and when you run sweepers. It's basically your station's signature recipe. Now, why does all this matter? Well, because structure equals flow, and flow, well, that keeps people listening. It makes your station sound polished, professional, and quite possibly, if you do it right, addictive. And building a radio station without a format clock is a lot like walking into a hardware store, grabbing every paint color on the shelf and just slapping it on a white wall. Neon green, blood red, woo, glitter spray, fun. Yeah, it's definitely loud, but it ain't pretty. Now, a proper format clock, that's a lot like choosing a color palette. Your base color is your familiar hits. They're clean, reliable, timeless. Add some bold accent colors, those big, exciting power hits, and then throw in a pop of surprise every now and again, a deep cut or listener request. And finally, tie it all together with a slick coat of finish. And that's your sweepers, your jingles, your witty DJ banter and branding. Boom! Polished, fresh, and unforgettable. And without it, well, your station just becomes an explosion in the paint aisle, and that's never good for anybody. And because I am the radio DJ dude who cares, I've handcrafted a special format clock just for sweet little old you, and you could check out the link in the description to pick it on up. Okay, now that we're all on the same formatic page, let's talk about your music library, because hey, it all starts there. And if your idea of organizing your library is just, well, all my favorite songs in one big pile, well, we've got some work ahead of us. Because here's the deal. You need to categorize your songs like your station's life depends on it, because it does. And I'm not just talking about slapping broad rock or pop labels on a playlist. No. You got to grab your scuba gear, because we are going deeper on this one. Now, for reference, here's what that looks like in the radio playout software RadioDJ. You have broad categories to organize music, jingles, sweepers, features, etc. Then you have subcategories, and these are specific to the category. For example, in music, these are my subcats. For jingles, I've got a ton more subcategories for better organization. And then there are genres. Jumping back to music, 80s, here are my genres. But I don't use all of them, and I'm going to get to that in a second. But back to some other ideas to best categorize your library. First up, styles and genres. Instead of just rock, R&B, and pop, let's say you're running a yacht rock station. Well, you can have genres like smooth grooves, 80s crossover hits, and slow jams. Next up, tempo, and this is a huge one. Nothing kills the energy of a station faster than playing 3 slow songs in a row. No, you want to avoid that. Mix it up. You should alternate fast, mid-tempo, and slow songs. In addition to just genres, I use these mood tags in RadioDJ to assure high-energy songs are played, for example, after the top of the hour and out of commercial breaks, because I don't want any sleepy time moments from Basha after a stop set. You've already made your listeners suffer long enough. This is such an important point to belabor. I will. Tempo. You really need to be mindful of transitions between fast songs and slow songs. And fine-tuning your rotation will avoid massive train wrecks from going from super in-your-face rock songs to more sleepy time, lovey-dovey slow songs. And one tool in my branding arsenal to help smooth transitions from songs of differing tempos is a tempo change jingle. And this goes back to the old days in radio where we actually had sung tempo change jingles where the jingle started out kind of high energy and then it smoothly transitioned into more of a slower resolution, making it almost possible to go from Scorps into Cindy.
Here I am, the best 80s music. Triple X 80s.
But just because I have that tempo change jingle doesn't mean I want to make it a habit of programming a slow song after a rock song. That's a no-no. Next up are song types, and this category can go on forever. I mean, at its most basic, you have currents, recurrents, and golds. And yeah, we could complicate this by throwing in variations of each. Current power, current secondary down, power recurrent. But come on, if you're a small internet station, I don't want you to bother with this. Don't let this be a speed bump in getting your station on the air. Just keep it simple right now, and you can always revisit this later. And you definitely should, because format clocks and music rotations are really living, breathing things. And don't just set it and forever forget it. They really need to be pruned and attended to maintain their freshness. And then there's decades or categories in RadioDJ. You see here 70s and 80s. Now, if you're running a decade-based station like my all 80s flamethrower, XXX80s.com, well, you want to make sure you're not just playing 1983 songs back to back. It's important to rotate the years, but more important, to really have a good blend of genres and subcategories throughout. For XXX80s, I try to keep it tight by tagging songs in these genres. Top 40, now that's my main genre, and these are just overall up-tempo hits. Then we have pop mid, which are mid to slower tempo songs, rock, kind of self-explanatory, then hip-hop, which is a general catch-all category for hip-hop and light rap, urban songs from the 80s. And outside of the holiday genres of Halloween and Christmas, I mean, that's it. I keep it pretty simple. Sure, I could break up that top 40 genre into more, different subcats, but why do that? Listeners are tuning in to XXX80s to hear their favorite 80s songs, period. And I only play the hits. No random B-side nonsense. I guess it's like a dance. and you are the DJ. You lead it. But remember, you've been there, nothing empties a dance floor quicker than a crappy playlist. I mean, you just can't survive a transition from Guns N' Roses' Sweet Child of Mine to anything from Celine Dion. All right, here's where things get next level. Format clocks. Woohoo! Buckle up. I know it sounds boring, but this really is where the real magic happens. A format clock is your blueprint for the entire hour. It tells you when to play songs and which type of songs, when to run commercial breaks or stop sets, when your DJ runs their mouth, and when you play sweepers, promos, and jingles. Now let's jump into RadioDJ, which is my radio playout software of choice. And while the user interface and functionality differs, what I'm about to share with you, these principles apply to all the apps. Now, for XXX80s, I use 9 different format clocks per day, and that's way too many. I know I really need to bust out the machete and trim some of this fat. And like I said earlier, clocks and rotations, they really do need nurturing. And one reason I have so many of these things is due to all my features. For example, I have some features like the decade double play that I want to make sure play during peak listening hours. So I've modified other clocks to add them in. Same for other fun features like listener requests. And all these I've done videos on and definitely encourage you to check them out. They're really awesome ways to infuse some energy into your station. But since these are features and they're special, I really don't want them to run every hour. And if you're just getting started, I get it. You're probably not going to have a burlap sack full of features, and that's not a problem. At this point, I really want you to concentrate on your imaging. You shouldn't launch a station without fun and upbeat sweepers and jingles. If you haven't watched my Duda Festo video, well, it's a must-see, especially if you're thinking of starting a station or even if you're just new to broadcasting. The short story to that video is don't launch an internet jukebox. Oh my God, you're not offering any value to an already noisy world. But in a second, I'm going to tell you where to focus on and what really matters. But first, I want you to check out a couple more of my format clocks or rotations. Here's an example of one of my 9 rotations or format clocks for XXX80s. What you don't see here is the top of the hour ID, which my event loads every hour. Then the very first song is a top 40 song, which I mentioned has to be, up-tempo, high energy, and I'm using RadioDJ's mood tags to flag those songs. So that's how the hour starts. Next up is this SQL query, which is kind of cool, and I did a video about this if you're interested. What this will do, we'll say, look at the day of the week. If it's a weekend, well, play a weekend jingle, or if it's a weekday, just play one of my standard station jingles. So that's a real nice way to, embed some freshness into the rotation. Next up, a top 40 song. Third song of the hour is a top 40 song, but with a voice track over it. I am using RadioDJ's kind of sweeper functionality to run all my voice tracks, and it's been really successful for me. And yes, I even have a video on that. Check it out. Up next is a jock sweeper, which, I made a video about this. Jock sweepers are really fun. It's a great way to kind of infuse more personality into your station, and specifically your DJs.
And Jeff Scott.
Something that I'm really attracted to in men is big noses.
Is it big enough for you?
It's huge!
XXX80s.
And that brings on a rock song. And next up is one of my fun features, the decade double play. Yep, you betcha I did a video on this, and I love this feature. And that takes us to our very first stop set. And eventually I'm going to do a video sharing best practices for stop sets. What are some good ways to get into a stop set? What content types, what features can you use? Then we have the stop set, which my Radio Host Live 365 injects into the stream. Then coming out of the stop set, very important, I use those mood tags again to ensure another up-tempo song plays out of spots, because we don't want to bore people after they've already been bored for 2 minutes listening to commercials. Then for this particular rotation, I have a smart speaker promo, which just tells people they could, yell at a device to play the station. You can now listen to Triple X 80s on your smart speaker. Just say, Alexa, play Triple X 80s.
80s music? Gag me with a spatula.
Alexa, it's a spoon.
Whatever.
And I think within this rotation position, some hours it'll have a request promo, which tells listeners how to make requests on our website. And if you see here on the next line in this rotation, this is RadioDJ's functionality of actually inserting a request if one exists. If someone made a request online, well, it will be played in this position. If there aren't any requests, well, it just plays the next 80s pop mid or kind of slower to mid-tempo 80s song in that position. Next up, another top 40 song with, look here, sweeper start. That's another voice track. That goes into a fun, quick movie sweeper, which usually has a popular 80s movie drop-in and some station branding.
Bill, my friend? Yes, Ted, my friend. This has been a most excellent adventure.
Triple X 80s.
And that fires off a rock song, which then leads into a station jingle, a general jingle, and we hit them with another pop mid song. Personally, I think those two pop mids are too close together. That is something to explore. We want proper separation with any tempo or genre of music. And here's an example of another great way to go into a commercial break with this feature I call Totally Cheesy Trivia, which basically, and I think I've done a video on this too.
Totally Cheesy Trivia.
With me, Triple X 80's very own, AI Valley Girl. Richard Pyrong marketed a sound-activated switch in the 80s that would control the power to an appliance based on a specific type of noise. What is the name of this product?
Hang on. That answer and more extreme 80s fun coming up.
Then the stop set plays, and then out of the stop set, we rejoin this feature.
Now, a totally cheesy trivia recap.
Richard Pyrong marketed a sound-activated switch in the 80s that would control the power to an appliance based on a specific type of noise. What is the name of this product? And my 80s lovers, the answer is clap on, clap off, the clapper.
Triple X 80s.
After that nonsense, we go into another up-tempo 80s song, and then followed by another top 40 song with a voice track. Here we have a RadQuest Quick promo, which basically is a promo to make requests on the station's website. And if you did make a request, well, it'll play right here. Then we have another top 40 song. By this time, I'm probably already at the top of the hour, but you always want to pad your rotations with enough songs so your rotation doesn't start again, if that matters to you. Then I have some liners, which are real kind of in your face, and they're edgy, and they're perfect in front of a rock song.
Come on over here with that thing.
Would you like to touch it?
I know you know what's going to happen next.
Triple X.
Oh, yeah.
80s.
Like I said, with RadioDJ, not only is this like a format clock, but you're able to also embed rotation rules. And you see, this is how I choose to select my songs using the least recently played option. Now, RadioDJ, along with whatever software you're using, probably gives you other similar and other options. I've had the most success with least recently played. Random is a big problem, and this is something that's kind of sunk me before, not providing a good separation of songs. You'd hear certain songs over and over again. So I went and changed most of those items to least recently played. That's a great thing with RadioDJ. They give you a bunch of other quote-unquote rules to choose from. And this is how I'm selecting all these elements in that rotation. The category, music, jingles, promos, whatever. Then you have your subcats and the genre. And you have other options to select songs based on their mood, gender, language, their start type, soft, hard, fade, voice, in type. I have used these other categories for different uses. Like, I don't care so much about gender. I do see the point. Stations in the old days used to have rules. No, don't play 2 songs in a row from females. I don't care so much about that. I'm using gender, and specifically the mixed option under gender to flag songs with intro times of 15 seconds or more, because all my voice tracks are around, 13 to 15 seconds. So when I program a song with a gender of mixed, that means my voice tracks will always fit perfectly over that song's intro. There won't be any train wrecks. I won't step on intros with my tracks. So that's how I use gender. And then down here, you have some other repeat rules, which I've already programmed in the other section of RadioDJ. And you'll have similar rules in your software where you don't want to repeat the track, artist, title for a certain number of minutes. And that's really important. Maybe we'll jump over to that. So in RadioDJ, those live in options, auto DJ, and these are your rules. I don't know if these are my current rules because this isn't my on-air version of the software, but I'm basically saying don't play the same song or track for 100 minutes. Don't play the same artist for 70 minutes. Don't play the same title for 100 minutes. I don't care about albums because they don't factor in to my rotations. Some other softwares will have better artist separation functionality, which I think you should be using. And this basically says if you have a track with two different artists singing on it, well, you don't want the very next song to be one of those singers. For example, it would be Genesis followed up by a Phil Collins song. You want to avoid that. And that's where this artist separations is really important. But for genre, decade-based stations, I don't think you want this number to be too high. Your artist separation can be a little lower, but of course you need to figure out rotation rules that fit for you. Here's another one of my rotations, and I have a SQL query in this rotation that is one of these movie liner jingles where it's actually a movie spotlight. It's taking like National Lampoon's Vacation, and it's a montage of a couple fun moments from that movie, station jingle, and then I have a sung year element. So 1985, whatever year that movie came out, and that will then play a song from that year. I think that's a fun little touch.
Awesome 80s!
National Lampoon's Vacation.
I'm going steady, and I French kiss.
So everybody does that.
Yeah, but Daddy says I'm the best at it.
Triple X 80s.
1983.
I have another feature called the One Hit Wonder Time Machine, and yep, you guessed it. After this jingle plays, it will play a one-hit wonder. And I'm using end type soft to mean one-hit wonder. So every song I bring into my library that is a quote-unquote one-hit wonder, I tag it with end type soft to let me know that that is truly a one-hit wonder. Now I'm going to hit you with 5 quick tips to supercharge your rotations and format clocks. First, tight and right. Don't have too many songs in your rotation. You really need to aim for tight, focused categories. I mean, if you have 1,200 songs in your library, consider maybe moving 200 of them in and out of your rotation every 3 months. And you should avoid predictability. And to do this, you rotate your format clocks. You don't need 8 right now. You could start with 2 and expand over time. But maybe every other hour, you're changing these clocks up. So it just gives your listener more of a fresh listening experience. And there's something called day parting, where you'll have different clocks for morning drive, where maybe this is higher energy, or late night, it's more chill vibes. But day parting is more for local broadcast radio, because for online stations, there really aren't any real day parts. It's almost always morning somewhere in the world. So that's probably not as big of a concern for you. Something else is good to do, keep listeners guessing. And avoid playing the same song at the same time every day, or even the same style or genre of song at that same time. And the same could be said about your station imaging. And a good clock really nails this. And imaging variety. Something I really didn't dive deep into is applying these same principles to your station imaging, your sweepers, your jingles. And if you look in my jingles category, I have all these subcategories which help to keep my imaging sounding fresh. And while these are supposed to be quick tips, I mean, come on, when have I ever done anything quick? I've definitely got more to share about this. Well, one of these old school pie style clocks is a good first step to get your ideas down, you really should consider jumping to a spreadsheet to create your final rotation clock. It's definitely much easier to look across the columns and see all your elements mesh hour by hour. And if you take a look at one of my spreadsheet rotations, you can see the layout across the different columns here. Well, this is a good version 1, I think, really to make this pop and make it easier to see patterns and identify different song genres. You can do one of two things. First is, in Google Sheets, create a drop-down menu for each, song genre. So we have top 40, pop mid, rock, and hip hop. And we can assign a different color to each one of those genres. So now as we're building out these rotations, we click our drop down and we select the particular song that goes in that slot. And it's easier when you scan across the columns to look at these color patterns and see maybe, where you have too much of one type of song. Now, I think another cool approach is, let's say, staying with this text-only format. Well, Google Sheets has this cool conditional formatting option where I could go in and, using this formula here, say, find all the cells with T40 in it. For me, that's a top 40 song. And make the background color of those cells red. And I could do that for, my pop mids, my rock. This really brings to life, I think, your rotation. And like I said, it just gives you a better overall view of how all your elements are kind of playing together across the entire day. So I'm super excited to share this little ditty with you. Since I recorded the main video, I had an idea. Can I, once again, tap the bots on the shoulder and say, hey, help me create a cool radio format clock builder, which would allow you to do two things. One, create a really colorful pie chart representation of your hour, but at the same time, end up with a really nice list of all your elements in the hour and be able to export that as a CSV file, which then you can import in to Google Sheets or Excel to further work on it. And this little baby has done the trick. Granted, it's very simple, but I think it does get the job done. And if we just kind of look at the interface here, this will allow you to enter in a number of different elements: a song, a DJ break, jingle, sweeper, promo, content, could be a contest, stop set, a feature, or miscellaneous. Allows you to give it a name. And if you see over here in the pie chart for songs, which this would be like their songs genre or subcategory, it will print out onto the pie chart. And then if you want a voice track over that song, you click voice track and you see a little microphone icon appear. And you have 12 different colors to choose from to code each slice of your pie. And another really cool feature, you can drag and drop and rearrange these in any order that you want. Let's say after you've built the clock out, you're like, darn it, I wish that sweeper was between these two songs. And we want to move the voice track to up here. Boom. It's easy. And it just helps you quickly take an idea of a rotation you might have for your station and just, get a visual representation of it and take it all in, see how you feel about the flow, and then rearrange it until you end up with something you really like. And then once you do, you can either export it as a PDF or PNG file, or like I said, export the spreadsheet to further refine it and color code it. And it's just a great way to stay organized. And we even have a total runtime. So this is it. It's our little radio format clock, and just comparing it to kind of what's already out there. By no means is it the best clock builder app. I mean, you do have some other options, but I mean, they're so much more expensive. While uClockit offers a free plan, you can't share it, you can't export it, can't print it, and it's $24 a year. And then over here, we have Clockmaker software for $20. Obviously more full featured, but at this point, if you're just looking to quickly, have a tool to bang out a rotation, then I mean, you really can't go wrong. And while I peel the curtain back on how some of my rotations are constructed, if you feel like you're still really not getting it, or you'd like a little more guidance in maybe creating a custom rotation or a music clock for your station? Well, the bots in the cloud cannot wait to help out. I created this custom prompt that will output a custom, format clock for your station just by entering some details here, like your station genre, what kind of station are you, who's your audience, and fill in some other details, and boom, you'll get this really nice detailed format clock and an explanation of why it's programming different elements in the slots that it's choosing. Now granted, this is ChatGPT, this isn't, an expert radio consultant, but I mean, it could be a good starting point for you. And then feel free to add to the prompt by giving it your exact song genres and explaining in a couple words what they mean. Like for top 40, these are upbeat, like power hits or hits from the 80s. So give the bot some rules to follow, and I think you'll be surprised. Biggest secret in all of radio. You ready? You hydrated? You hungover? Come on, put the bong down, Chester. Focus here, it's important. And you've heard me drone on about this before, but it's not about the music. It's what happens between the songs. Come on, I'm serious here. And I've already hit you with it. Your listeners, come on, they could get that music anywhere. Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, wherever. But you know what they can't get anywhere? You, your show, your station's personality. This is where you make your mark. This is where you write your name in the snow with your unique stream, so to speak, of fun and freshness. The sweepers, the jingles, the fun features, DJ's personality, the random caller who says something nutty. That right there is where your station wins or loses. Music, that's the easy part. Any dummy with a working mouse could double-click their way to getting a stream up. And these aren't just the ramblings from one radio nutter. Veteran radio consultant Keith Hill agrees with your radio DJ dude. You could go from worst to first in any market if you have a really compelling station. Musically, you could be tight and right. It's mainly about what happens in between the songs, the fun and excitement, personalities and promotions, the imaging. If you could nail what happens between the music, you have a better chance of inspiring a listener to bookmark your station. Give them something they can't get anywhere else, and they will give you their most precious resource, their time.
Making you feel good.
So before I unplug this mic, music rotations, keep it tight. Format clocks, keep it fresh. But you make the magic. So damn it, go make some. I'm Jeff, the radio DJ dude, and if you got at least 8% value from this video, please hit like and subscribe, and I really appreciate your time. I thank you for hanging out with me. And please tell me in the comments, what's the weirdest, funniest, or most unexpected thing that you have done between the songs on your station? And I want to hear it all, so don't hold back. Don't forget, right there in the description, I've got that link for you to grab my format clock 100% for free. And until our next radio rodeo, you keep rocking those mics all over the world.